Yours truly and Judicial Watch were the subject of a lot of news this week, and it was kind of a retread of a CNN story from last year, where so-called advisors around Trump were saying that, well, the reason Trump didn't, quote, cooperate, even though he actually did cooperate, I'll get into that, the reason he did it was because he kept on citing Tom Fitton and this Clinton stock drawer case. So it's all my fault, right? It's all my fault he was indicted. As opposed to Trump complained about Justice Department abuse, which is what happened, and it looks like he then was abused by the Justice Department for complaining about Justice Department abuse, namely indicted. So I don't know what these people are thinking about Trump. The fact is he turned over records. Arguably, he didn't have to under the Presidential Records Act in February or January of 2022. They saw some records that they deemed to be classified, even though under the law I would suggest they weren't classified. And they went back and forth as to, what rights President Trump had in that regard. They finally issued and harassed him with a subpoena, to which he responded with a set of classified records. So this idea that he didn't cooperate is bunk. Now, of course, they alleged there was obstruction of that search, and I've read the indictment. Of course, the indictment was essentially leaked in bits and parts prior to its issuance last week, or its unsealing. But there was no obstruction. He fully cooperated. So when folks say, oh, Trump listened to Judicial Watch or Tom Fitton and that's why he got indicted, well, that's ridiculous because he cooperated. He cooperated and turned over records subject to the subpoena. So this is the line. Trump rejected, this is the big Washington Post story. I don't think you can read it, can you? Trump rejected lawyers' efforts to avoid classified documents indictment. It was a totally unforced error, said one person close to Trump, who has been part of dozens of discussions about the documents. We didn't have to be here. Oh, I don't know who that source is. Doesn't sound credible to me. Trump, time and time again, rejected the advice from lawyers and advisors who urged him to cooperate and instead took the advice of Tom Fitton, the head of Judicial Watch, the conservative group Judicial Watch, and a range of others, so it wasn't allegedly just me, who told him he could legally keep the documents and should fight the Justice Department, advisors said. Trump would often cite Fitton to others, and Fitton told some of Trump's lawyers that Trump could keep the documents even as they disagreed, the advisors said. So who are these advisors? I mean, it sounds to me like a lot of third and second-hand news, and I know to be unreliable. In an interview, Fitton said he dined with Trump on Monday night at his club, eating filet mignon, how dare I, with the former president one day before his first court appearance on the document changes. I did eat filet. It was delicious. The president was a gracious dinner host. I saw him last night. This is my quote. He's in a good mood. He's serious and ready to fight under the law. Fitton, who appeared before the grand jury and was questioned about his role in both the Mar-a-Lago documents case and the investigation into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, acknowledged he gave the advice to Trump, but declined to discuss the details of his conversations. I don't think I acknowledged that, but, that's the Washington Post. What can I do? He added that he read the indictment and did not believe it laid out illegal or obstructive conduct. Multiple witnesses said they were asked about Fitton in front of a grand jury and the role he played in Trump's decisions. Now, I'm only a witness, right? They're still so upset about this sock drawer defense. They were trying to shoot it down by asking questions about what was happening with it and mentioning me. I think what is lacking is the lawyers saying, this is what I say, I took this to be obstruction, meaning, Trump's alleged to have made comments, I read them to be joking comments or complaints that are perfectly legitimate to his lawyers about complying with the subpoena. But there's no information that the lawyers considered it to be or took actions that were obstruction as a result. Where's the conspiracy? I don't understand any of it. I think this is a trap. It is a trap. It was a trap. They had no business asking for the records. I guess technically they could have asked for the records. They had no business demanding the records. And they've manufactured an obstruction charge out of that. There are core constitutional issues that the indictment avoids, and the obstruction charge seems weak to me. So this is the story that's launched 1,000 billion attacks on me and Judicial Watch. And if you go online and social media and search for Judicial Watch and my name, you'll see all sorts of attacks for me. Very odd attacks. Oh, Tom's not a lawyer. Tom only has a BA in English. Of course, they love attacking my physical appearance because I guess my physical appearance tends to trigger and intimidate the left. But no one addresses the facts of the issue. Was President Trump right to be concerned that his rights were being violated as President of the United States under the Presidential Records Act, which reflects, that law reflects the president's prerogatives. He's the head of the executive branch. His White House records, he decides which are permanent government records, essentially presidential records, and what are his personal records. And there's no one, who would decide if he doesn't decide? I mean, we have a separation of powers in our constitutional system. So that's something that they don't want to grapple with. So they start talking about Tom Fitton and where I went to school and what I look like. And they start attacking Judicial Watch. Even though Judicial Watch, let's be clear here, because any advice I gave to the president, you can be sure I told the grand jury about. And let me be clear, I told the grand jury and I told the prosecutors who were harassing me before that grand jury all about themselves in terms of the abuse they were pouring on Trump. And I pointed out this Clinton's doctoral case. And I think there's good reason they didn't mention it, because I think they're fearful of it coming up before the courts because they might lose on it. And Judicial Watch has 30 years experience investigating and litigating federal records issues and presidential records issues. So if there is anyone you want to consult about presidential records and federal records, there is no one better than Judicial Watch. And so they can whine and complain about anything I said to President Trump, but I do know he's right on the law, or at least I think he is, based on our experience, which is significant, versus everyone else who is reading the Presidential Records Act for the first time this week and trying to understand federal law as it relates to records, something that Judicial Watch and our team, legal team here, has been litigating since before many of those commenting were born. I mean, I've been at Judicial Watch for 25 years. Dare I say it, I know a little bit about the way records laws operate here in the United States. My colleagues who are attorneys here have litigated, I would say, 1,000+ cases in the area of records law. I mean, we were litigating presidential records fights back during the Clinton administration 25, 30 years ago. So I don't need any lectures from anyone about what it is that can be said to a former president. And I tell you what, President Biden, if you have questions on the records laws, feel free to contact Judicial Watch, and we'll try to educate you and your colleagues about what you're able to do under the law. But of course, they're not interested. They're trying to distract from that corruption or what they did do under the law, which is to take records they arguably didn't have a right to from his Senate days, by trying to jail Trump. So if you're already supporting Judicial Watch, I encourage you to support our work. We need to stand together and stand fast. Our republic is under assault. They're trying to jail a president. They arrested him. They arrested our former president for no reason, okay? No reason. So don't get distracted by the disputes about records. Don't get distracted about where the boxes are in the house versus the office versus the storage room and where the lawyer should have or could have looked. It's all noise. It's about a political arrest of an opponent of the Biden administration. And the Biden administration this week officially turned from an administration, in my view, to a regime. And the regime is now targeting its political enemies in ways never seen before in American history. So support Judicial Watch, pray for America, and I tell you what, let your members of Congress know they need to take whatever action they can under the law to stop this abuse. And obviously, you're supporting Judicial Watch is a great way for you to take action, because they're so nervous about what we're saying that they're hauling me in front of a grand jury and harassing Judicial Watch as well. So we're over target, aren't we? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.